I'm David Bottorff, Executive Director of the Association of Indiana Counties, and with us today is our special guest, Senator Andy Zay, and he is the senator from District 17. He's been in the General Assembly since 2016. He serves Wabash County and portions of Grant, Huntington, and Whitley counties. He is chairman of the Insurance and Financial Institutions Committee. He also serves on the Commerce and Technology Committee, Environmental Affairs Committee, and Utilities Committees. Thank you, Senator Zay, for coming over and visiting with us.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Yeah.
So we're real excited about one of the bills you've introduced on broadband development. That is one of our top priorities this session, and there are several bills out there, and hopefully we can really move the ball forward on development this year. So can you tell us a little bit about what your bill does?
Well, that's really a good way of putting it. It's really moving the ball forward. I thought I was getting into something new when I started to unfold this through the summer and into the fall this past year. But in fact, there had been a pretty extensive study done in 2014. Sue Ellersperman championed that with many of the industry folks and just the stakeholders. And it was a real comprehensive study done in 2014. And the irony in reflecting and reviewing some of that study and looking at the work I was doing this year, a lot of the questions were really the same. A lot of the issues were the same. And so what I tried to create with my bill, Senate Bill 377, is just an opportunity to really, I want to do more than move the ball forward. I want to throw it forward. And the reason is this. There has been no more important time than this last year to really look at the challenges of connectivity and how it's affected so many different dynamics of our society. You think about all our kids being sent home and all of them having the necessity of doing virtual and e-learning, which is still continuing today. The business community, where so many folks have been pushed to home, working from home more than ever. And then telehealth. Up in my neighborhood, we have a hospital health system. Their telehealth has gone up 10,500%. The reality is, really in all those areas, they won't maintain the levels that we had in 2020 and continuing a little bit in 2021, but they are here to stay. And it's going to drastically change the landscape of our economy, of who we are and how we connect and interact. I mean, how many Zoom meetings have we been on? What a year, huh? Yeah. But, it's time as a state that we really champion this. And that's what I've tried to really impress upon the governor. It's the here and now and really moving that forward, because I believe that the state that gets this figured out and gets a strong, high level of connectivity throughout our entire state is a state that's going to lead the way. And if we get ahead of our peers, our neighboring states, we will continue our dominance in being a place where people want to come, live, work, and play. And, I'm not sure we can get it accomplished to where it's a boastful bragging point for our current governor, but I want to be ready when the next governor comes, that will be an intimate talking point of really propelling Indiana into this next century.
Yeah. And again, it's a top priority for our association because it's so critical for economic development and really just quality of life.
Right.
And so anything we can do to be of assistance, let us know. And we're following all the broadband expansion bills. And I certainly hope, like you said, not just move the ball forward, but we throw the ball forward this session. So,
absolutely.
Other issues on COVID-related, which has kind of dominated the early parts of the session, I feel like critical bill for us was the civil immunity. It only applied to businesses, but to counties. And what's the activity on that so far?
Well, civil immunity was huge. This past summer, it was a tough year for small business. And being a small businessman myself, I'm very compassionate. I have a big heart for those folks. Those are folks that invest their heart and soul in running their industry, serving a lot of small communities I represent. And honestly, some of our bigger industries started as small businesses. So it's those people that we need to encourage and support, in my opinion. But the civil immunity was such a critical component coming out of 2020 and, again, starting now and just the COVID concerns. And so it's allowing businesses to function more normally. It's allowing our schools to operate. And then I think as we get into hopefully spring and summer, the festivals where we're congregating, it just gives them a simple layer of protection that they won't be held liable for transmission of COVID. We've never done that with the cold or flu in the past, so we're really just kind of putting that out there in statute to kind of clear that up and maybe play a little preventative defense on that.
No, it's very welcome news for counties too because of the jail population.
Oh,
Again,
right.
so many courthouses ended up being open, and there were some courthouses that never really closed, so you had this wide variety across the state.
Right.
And it kind of brings me to our next issue I want to touch about with county health departments. They're sort of under the review right now at the State House. Has much happened with their authority yet, or the review of their authority?
Well, we're looking at that. I believe it's Senator Garton's Senate Bill 5 that will kind of touch on that arena. And it just kind of gives the individuals a little bit of an appellate process to the commissioners in the county and review whether sanctions or whatever they're trying to implement is fair, is just. It's just a tough thing when you're talking about 92 different counties. The spotlight has never been brighter on health departments as it has. I mean, they've just kind of functioned and done their job for so many years with, the appointments and everything kind of flowed fairly normally with a hiccup here or there. But this year, I mean, they played a very important role in a communication realm from the state down to the local level, and trying to balance a lot of viewpoints of the crisis, of the economic crisis, of the COVID crisis with the communities. It's been a tremendous challenge. So, when we have times like this, it's important for us to learn from it. And I think, a component of some of the health regulation, health department regulation, is a little bit where we've come from, to just try and create some fairness and some opportunity for the individuals to have a little bit of an appellate process. Some of the health departments have been, very maneuverable, where they've worked well with the commissioners, worked well with the counties, and some have been a lot more authoritarian. So that discrepancy is what I think Senator Garton's bill tries to level out a little bit.
Yeah. And again, it's not all about COVID this session. Clearly, it's one of the top issues. But you chair the Insurance and Financial Institutions Committee. Is there anything, as chairman of that committee, that's a priority for you for the session?
I wouldn't say I have a specific priority, and it's been quite a kind of a quiet calendar, if you will, in financial institutions and insurance this year. But we have a few things moving. Some of the health issues on the insurance side kind of trickle over to our arena. So we're looking at some how we can affect the cost of pharmaceuticals and drugs, and really trying to wade through that between the manufacturer, the PBM, and the retail, and also how it works within health plans and those kinds of things. So we're trying to look at that dynamic and see how we can peel some of that apart and really have an impact for you and I and the consumers of those drugs. And it's real interesting. It's kind of in a world you don't think about much. I mean, we just go to our pharmacy and do what we do, but we do know that particularly for some of the drugs that are ongoing that we get into, they can be very expensive. It can be very expensive for families, and so we got 2 or 3 bills there that are pretty interesting that will probably take up a lot of time in the next few weeks. But other than that, it's been pretty quiet. I mean, we have about 8-10 bills that's all in the committee, and I'm going to hear about 4 or 5. So this year will be pretty quiet, which is good for me. It's my first year, so we'll take it at an even pace.
Well, and as counties are large employers, and right after direct salaries, healthcare benefits are our second largest cost. So anything that we can do to help control healthcare costs, we're just like a small business from that perspective. So.
And I think that's really a challenge on all of us as legislators. We felt that pressure back home from everyone. It really cuts into a cost of living and our lifestyles. And anything we can do, we have to try and figure that out.
Yeah. So we always have a couple of fun questions here at the end. We're asking all of our guests who come over. So who is your favorite Indiana musician or band?
Oh, there's a lot of them, but Crystal Gale's from Wabash. That's kind of funny. I took my 14-year-old. His first concert will be Crystal Gale, so he'll get to tell that story for the rest of his life. But they renovated a beautiful theater up there. It was a real interesting experience. But my college days were at IU, and so with that, it was just John Cougar, John Mellencamp, and his time down, and still then down around Bloomington. But back then, he would sneak off and play at the Bluebird or something, and the town would just go nuts. And so those intimate settings where the good old musicians would go out and really just kind of be the average Joes amongst the people, and he really was back then, because that's when he was just getting warmed up in his heydays in the early 80s. So I'm very partial to his music, and I really enjoyed that, and it brings back a lot of fun memories from my time down at IU.
Great. So other question we're asking all of our guests is, what's your favorite county fair food or state fair food?
Well, that list is never ending, right? Everything from deep fried whatever to everything else. But I'm very partial to the pork tenderloin, which is Nick's Kitchen in Huntington is got a national renown for that, and I think that qualifies as fair food, and Jeannie does a great job and serves at the local county fair, and so, yeah, that's certainly one of my favorites.
Yeah, Nick's is one of my favorite spots whenever I'm traveling
Yeah.
up in that area. I try to make an excuse to stop in there. So,
Yeah.
and then our final question is, what's your favorite sport team in Indiana, college or pro?
Well, he's not a pro yet, but certainly my son's team. But beyond that, I guess I'm partial to IU, and but my wife and my sons have been to Purdue, so you gotta follow them. It's a tough question for me. It really is. I'm not quite as engaged in the sports scene as I have been, but it's fun to watch IU's football success this year, which didn't end real well, and there's nothing like IU and Purdue basketball that have been pretty strong, and that rivalry still goes on. So I don't know. It's kind of a tough question for me. I keep an eye on them all, and followed the Colts and came up a couple points short of advancing in the playoffs this year, and challenges amongst them now with Philip Rivers stepping out, but. So those are probably three, and then we have a crowd that gets together and watches a lot of Notre Dame football in the fall. So I don't know. I didn't really commit to anything there, did I? I mean, that's a very political answer, but I enjoy watching my kids play it, and then I follow all the teams, and my personal interest with being at IU is certainly that, and the family interest at Purdue, and then just following Notre Dame football over the years. So. Sorry, I'm not going to commit.
Okay, well, no. Well, again, thanks for coming over and visiting. Appreciate all your support of county government, local government, and we enjoy working with you. And again, please thank Senator Zay for coming over and being our special guest today. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.